Hello and welcome back to Travel with Us for Life. This week, we take you with us to visit the hidden Baltinache Lagoons in the Atacama Desert. If you watched our last few videos, then you probably already know that we spent a whole week camping out in the Atacama Desert. But if this is your first time visiting the channel, make sure you subscribe today so you can start watching our videos and keeping up with our travels around the world. And of course, don't forget to like this video. When researching for the Atacama trip, we found a ton of different things to do, and we quickly realized that most people always end up going to the exact same sites. So we decided to include a couple of the less advertised attractions in our trip. The Baltinache Lagoons almost didn't make the cut. There just isn't a lot of information about them on the internet, so we almost overlooked them. But I'm so glad that we didn't. It ended up being an incredible experience. Make sure you stick with us to the end of the video so you can actually see how amazing it was. On our third morning in the Atacama Desert, we woke up in the Valley of the Rainbow, which is about an hour drive or 40 miles north of San Pedro de Atacama, which is the main little town in this area. Right now is Wednesday morning. Third day in the desert. We had a really good night and we woke up to this. The Rainbow Valley is a beautiful sight. We made a really cool video about it last week, so make sure to watch that video after this one because we had a lot of fun while we were there. And we saw a bunch of llamas too. We left the Rainbow Valley around noontime and headed straight to San Pedro de Atacama to get some gas, since they have the only gas station within 200 miles, which I know it sounds crazy, but there aren't many places in this area where you can get gas. Plus, it was on our way to the lagoons. What's up, everyone? San Pedro de Atacama. Driving through San Pedro is kind of crazy. They have all types of animals walking around the streets, and you constantly have to stop to let them pass. That's something we saw a lot of while traveling in Chile. Once you get through San Pedro, you drive about 10 miles south on the main road before you have to make a left turn into a dirt road. And I'm calling it a dirt road just to call it something, but it almost feels like going off-roading. And the road was so bad, there were huge rocks everywhere. From this point to the actual lagoons, it's only about another 5 miles, but it took us almost half an hour to drive it just because of how bad the roads were and how slow we had to go. There were a couple times we thought we had actually gotten lost, but we finally saw a sign pointing towards the lagoons and we finally made it there. Once you get there, you need to pay 10,000 Chilean pesos. I know that sounds crazy, but it's only about $13 US. $13 US per person, and then you're in. The setup in this place is kind of interesting. When we first got there, we were actually very sketched out because there's not actually anything that you can see. And they ask you to park your car right next to this little booth that they have at the entrance. You pay, and then they tell you to walk on to the lagoons, but you can't really see any lagoons, so we didn't really know what to expect. At first, you get on this wooden trail that's got these alien-looking rocks on both sides. It honestly feels like you're in a Star Trek movie and you're walking in some alien planet. But anyways, after walking for about 10 minutes, we saw the first lagoon and we were completely blown away. It was so beautiful. The water was so pristine. There are a total of 7 lagoons in the Baltinache complex, and in order to preserve the site, we humans are only allowed to swim in 2 of them, and the other 5 are protected. The wooden path takes you in between all 7 lagoons for about a mile, which if you're walking in flip-flops like we were, it could be a very long walk. As a matter of fact, they recommend that you walk all the way to the last lagoon, which is one of the 2 you can swim in, and then after enjoying that one, you walk your way back and then you visit the other lagoons, and that's exactly what we did. Before getting in the water, I was a little skeptical as to what to expect. We haven't gotten in the water yet, we're gonna do that in a second, but I'm excited to experience the salt in the water that everybody talks about. I knew these were what they call salt lagoons, where just like in the Dead Sea, you're supposed to be able to float on the water because of how high the salt content is, which makes the water really dense. But having never really experienced that, I honestly didn't know what to expect. It was actually an amazing experience, one of the most fun and most interesting things I've ever done. Not only were we able to float without doing anything and with both of our hands and feet out of the water, it didn't really matter how hard I tried, I couldn't go under the water. Seriously, if I jumped in, it almost felt like I bounced back out of the water. And if I tried to swim down, my legs would just stick out of the water like I was stuck on some kind of jelly or something. All right, let's try the water. Oh, damn, that's so salty. Oh, wow.
From you touching your hat, you have salt on the rim of your hat.
I have salt everywhere.
Yeah.
This is crazy. You don't have to do anything. You can put both of your hands out of the water, both your feet out of the water, like I am right now, and you still float. It's amazing. You can just go and have a nap here.
Definition of zero gravity.
Yes, this is amazing. I love this place. Every ocean, every pool, every river should be like this.
I don't know, this is very salty.
Yes, without the salt, just the buoyancy. It would be great. You would never have to learn how to swim. Nobody would have to learn how to swim. You just float. The explanation of how or why this happens is actually linked to the way these lagoons were formed in the first place. Millions of years ago, when Chile was formed, huge amounts of water from the ocean were trapped within the land and ended up forming these giant saltwater lakes. Then over the years, and helped by the fact that in this area it never rains, the water slowly evaporated away from these lakes, leaving behind these giant salt deposits called salars everywhere in the Atacama Desert. We visited a few of these salars while we were in Atacama, and we're going to be making a video of the best ones to visit over the next few weeks, so make sure to look out for that video. The lake that gave birth to the Baltinache Lagoons was originally about 80 miles wide, but after millions of years of evaporation, these little 7 lagoons is all there's left of all that water. Regular seawater has a salinity content of about 35%, while these lagoons have over 290% salinity content, which makes them 9 times saltier than the regular ocean. All that salt makes the water so dense that you feel like floating corks on top of it. We spent about 2 hours playing around and laughing in the water before we noticed that we were starting to roast. This is actually really cool. The water is very cold, but because it's so hot outside, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
And then the salt makes your skin tingle. Yeah, all my skin's tingling. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're not gonna stay in the water too long. We're gonna rinse off because it's between the salt and the sun. We'll probably get burnt.
Especially what, it's 2, 3 o'clock?
Yeah, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the desert. After getting out, we realized we were completely strict with salt. It actually took quite a bit of washing up to get the salt out. Alright, so we just got out of the salt water. Look at this, we're completely, both of us, completely covered in salt. In any case, I am so glad we actually decided to visit the Baltinache Lagoons. It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. If you're planning a trip to the Atacama Desert, make sure to include this beautiful site on your list of places to visit. And remember, if you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you get more awesome videos like this one.